Hey guys, what's going on? This is Andrew here today, and we're finally getting into the review of the Oculus Quest 2. Before I start this review, I just have to point out that this system has been recalled due to the material inside the system causing skin irritation to some users. At the time of me recording this video, there hasn't been a revision, but if you're watching this when there has been a revision, just disregard what I just said right here. I'm just giving a warning to those who watched this when it initially got uploaded. So yeah, now that we got that out of the way, let's discuss why and when I got this system. Basically, I had never owned a VR headset, and before that, I only played a PSVR once at Best Buy, and then my cousin's Oculus Quest back in 2019. I've been very interested in the topic of VR for a very long time, but I just didn't feel like spending the crazy amount of money on something that was really just in its early stages. Eventually, though, my brother actually ended up getting a Rift S and a PC for Christmas last year, so I had some time to mess around with it and realize what I was missing, and it actually made me want to jump on right in the action. The problem was, I gave him my GTX 1070 with his new PC since my family couldn't secure him a graphics card due to the supply shortages, which meant that I was back on my GTX 970. Basically, I felt that it was only fair to give him my card to make him have the better PC since I already had the PS5 and Series X, and he had a garbage PC before, and if I had the Series X and PS5, and he had a PC that was still less powerful than mine, it just wouldn't make sense. I feel like since PC was his main platform, it made more sense to give him the better graphics card to have the better PC experience than me, since I already was having the best console experience. This now meant that my PC was at the minimum requirements for VR, so I knew that it probably wasn't worth getting something VR related anytime soon. Well, I was wrong. Basically, I didn't plan on getting anything VR related, but then I was on a vacation with my girlfriend's family in Florida, and we were at a mall. I went into an Amazon store that they had there, and I saw the Oculus Quest 2. I realized here that maybe this wouldn't be a bad option since I didn't have to worry about needing a beast of a PC for it, and it would be awesome to cover on my channel. Ironically, I'm actually covering this like 6 months after I got the thing, but after thinking about it for hours that day, whether I should get it or not, I decided to literally buy it on the spot. So this really was just a complete impulse buy, but I have wanted to get into VR for quite a long time, and what better way to get into it than with something like this? So now that we're done talking about all of that stuff, let's actually start talking about the headset itself. The model that I ended up getting was the 64GB version for $299. There's also a 256GB version for $399, but I didn't feel like I needed the extra storage. However, if you are going to be getting a ton of games on this system, I 100% recommend that you're going to get the 256GB one, because I filled up the storage with about 6 to 7 games. So this headset packs an 8-core Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2 CPU that's clocked at 1.8 GHz. It has 6 GB of RAM and a resolution of 1832 by 1920 in each eye. The OS is based off of Android, which means that you can actually load APKs on this thing. I haven't personally done it myself, but I strongly suggest that if you are considering using this thing to its fullest, that you should experiment with that. The one downside to this headset absolutely has to be the battery life though, which for me only lasts from 2 to 3 hours at the absolute most. I really wish that they would have included a longer charging cable, because then at least you would have had something where you could have been able to plug this in while playing it rather than having to worry about the battery life and then plugging it in between play sessions. Specs out of the way, let's start talking about the actual feel of the Oculus Quest 2. So I'm going to start off with negatives and then I'm going to get to the positives. So the first negative thing has to be the heavy feel of it. Obviously, I can't really expect it to be light because of what this thing is packing, but it definitely is something to point out that it is heavy. But the most annoying thing about this thing to me has to be the strap, and honestly, I think that's what makes this thing uncomfortable to me in general, because this just doesn't feel secure on my head. No matter what I do to adjust the strap, it just doesn't feel great. It will be good for a certain amount of time, but then it will start like unsecuring itself, which ends up making the image quality blurry. So it will start off really good and then progressively get blurry, and I'll have to keep adjusting it, and it is really annoying in that regard. So that is definitely one of the negative things about it. I think the strap honestly causes all of that, and if the strap was something like the Oculus Rift S's strap, I don't think we would have this issue at all like what I'm having. So that's definitely some negative stuff to point out. Going on to some positives, This thing is completely wireless, so you aren't going to be held back by some wire pulling you. You can walk anywhere in your room as long as you have a giant space. Think about it like this. Imagine having a giant gymnasium and just dedicating it to the Oculus. That is an awesome thing. I think that's definitely a positive thing to the feel. You don't have to worry about the wire. Another positive thing about the feel has to be these little camera lenses right here. So just in case you step out of your zone, you can see what's going on around you so you don't walk off some kind of edge or walk into something or hurt yourself. It shows the environment around you. So it's as if you're looking through your two eyes. It actually is really, really cool. Granted, it's in black and white, it still is very cool, and it's one of my favorite things about the headset. I've literally walked around the house with this thing and tricked my parents into me saying, hey, I've been able to memorize my house. I thought it was pretty funny. That's basically, I've done that once before, and it actually is a pretty cool feature to have on the headset. Another really positive thing about this thing is once the strap is adjusted and you can get it perfectly, if it's not going out of place, the picture quality is really good. And the reason why I'm talking about picture quality when talking about how comfortable something is when something is pixelated and garbage, it will strain your eyes. When you have something with good picture quality like this, there will be less eye strain, and in the end, you will have a better VR experience. That's one thing about this thing that I have to say is miles better than the original Oculus Quest. Not saying the original Quest was bad, I just think that I have much better playing experiences on this one than I ever did on my cousin's. The picture quality is pretty good. It's worse than the Oculus Rift S, but it still is really good, especially for a portable device. So, if there's anything that makes this an absolute positive, forget the headset. These controllers are an absolute godsend. They really do have a great feel to them. I feel like they fit so securely in my hands. The joysticks feel perfect. I love the button placement everywhere. The triggers feel great. I love the, they're not very clicky, but I love the way that they feel. I feel like everything about these controllers are positioned really well. Plus, they're very durable. I've dropped these things more than once, and not a single dent on any of these things in sight. It actually is pretty cool. Plus, they added straps on them. So if you are one of those people that drops things, you have this option to strap these things to you and not have to worry about that. So very, very good feeling controller. In my opinion, when it comes to a console, the most important thing is the controller, and Oculus nailed this. This is an amazing controller. In certain PC games with the Oculus Quest on PC, it doesn't have the best configuration all the time, but there are ways to get around that and configure things, and you can also use other gamepads and all that stuff. But in terms of Oculus Quest, this is an amazing controller for that system. So with that out of the way, guys, let's get into talking about some games. I apologize for the fact that these videos were recorded in 4:3. Unfortunately, that's the quality that the built-in screen recorder of the Oculus uses, and I didn't really have another practical way of recording this thing. Everything that I've played on this thing so far was a major blast, and I was actually genuinely shocked with how well these games played on such a small device like this. Frame rates were smooth and consistent for the most part, the graphics are pretty close to the PC VR versions of these games, and everything overall controlled very well. I didn't feel like any of these games felt clunky, but I do recommend trying to find a decent space to play these games, otherwise they might feel a bit off in a tight space. With those positives out of the way, we definitely have to get into some negatives though. Although I really believe that there are some great games on this system to choose from, I feel like this system is missing a major thing, and that is support from big name developers. A majority of the games that you see here are indie games or games that feel like knockoffs of others and just have the VR logo slapped on them to give it the excuse to play like something else. What we really need on the system is a system seller, and I just feel like we don't have one of those at the moment. The last thing that we're going to be covering in this video has to be the media aspect of this headset, and that is because this thing goes far beyond the realm of just video games. Going and watching regular movies and videos on this thing makes you feel like you're legit in a home theater, and going to watch 360 videos makes it feel like you're actually there in person. Although I'm only taking a look at what you can get with YouTube, there are various other forms of media that take advantage of this feature. One of those things to where you can literally watch live concerts simply on your headset and it literally feels like you were there. I don't have footage of it, but it is pretty cool and it's pretty mind-blowing if you ask me. It is actually pretty cool to see this headset take advantage of technology used in videos, and I'm looking forward to see what else we could be getting from this in the future in terms of media. Anyway guys, let's get into the final verdict of this video. Alright guys, we are here at my final verdict. I am going to say right off the bat that if this is something that you were thinking about getting based off of the library of games and the portability aspect, absolutely go for it. At either $299 or $399 for whichever model you pick, this thing seriously serves as an awesome entry into virtual reality. The game library is pretty solid, the console doesn't feel cut back, and overall, I've been having a really great experience with this. If there's one person that I really have to thank, it would be my brother Peter for showing me a bigger library of games to get, because usually I stay away from lesser known games. If it weren't for him, I definitely feel like my take would have been a whole lot different. With that being said though, as mentioned before, I wish that the system had a ton more support with the technology that this thing is packing. I can easily see this thing being able to play much bigger games. Just imagine if we had a Call of Duty or Battlefield-like game on the system. It would be absolutely insane. So what about for those guys who actually have gaming PCs that can take advantage of VR headsets? The indie library just isn't for everybody, and I've known people personally who have told me about being bored about the library, and that's when I've pushed them into getting a PC to play the Quest with those PC VR games. Where I definitely recommend the Rift S or Valve Index over something like this. This definitely is not a bad option to use if you feel like getting a PC down the line, but it's worth noting that you are either going to have to spend $80 on the specific PC link cable or worry about getting a alternative cable that may not be as good and have to, you'd have to make some sacrifices. Although I didn't cover using a PC in this video, I have played some PC VR games and it definitely is a blast. This video was meant to just focus on the portability aspect of the actual Quest 2 rather than use it on a PC. I don't know if I'm going to make a video next talking about this thing on PC, but it is worth noting that you definitely have to configure certain games to take advantage of the Quest 2 properly. Anyway, guys, that's my take on the Oculus Quest 2. I'm very happy with my purchase of this device, and I'm looking forward to see where VR takes us in the future. It definitely feels like we are in an awkward stage even now, but I'm sure that time will fix that just like anything else. Thank you all for watching this video. I will see you all in the next one.